Welcome to the Scaling Japan podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Bettino, and on today's episode, we have Anna Skrypka. She is a cultural AI strategist and creative director, founder of Anna Skrypka Studio, and creator of the Augmented Human Method, a framework that helps technology companies scale across borders by unifying cultural intelligence with AI-powered GTMs. Anna brings over 15 years of global experience, including a decade in Japan, helping global and Japanese teams grow creative tech and SaaS businesses. Before launching her studio, she led growth and customer success at Woven by Toyota and spent nearly a decade at Autodesk, scaling SaaS revenue across Japan, Korea, and India. If you want a deep, practical understanding of cross-cultural scaling and AI-driven go-to-market strategy in Japan, Anna's one of the best people you can learn from. So it's so great to have you on the podcast, Anna.
Tyson, thank you so much for this beautiful introduction and thanks so much for having me on the show. Really excited.
Yeah, you're welcome to give self-introduction as well before we dive
Great.
in.
Well, I spent almost 18 years working for tech companies like Autodesk and Toyota, and I was also working with startups, specifically startups scaling the business operations into Japan market and startups expanding from Japan to global. And in my work over the years, I've seen specific patterns happening again and again, and it actually inspired me to create my consultancy and creative studio in my proprietary methodology to help founders solve those problems. So today, very happy to share with you all what I think about the industry, scaling, and culturally intelligent GTM.
Yes, I'm looking forward to hearing more about how cultural intelligence can help with GTM. Before we start, here's a quick introduction to myself, your host. I'm the CEO of Smart Start Japan. We support setting up a company and back office in Japan. We also provide affordable advisory on raising capital, IPO, and other finance topics. I also run Scaling Your Company that provides courses and sales advisory and digital marketing agency services for the Japan market. If you need help, feel free to reach out. Before I dive in, I just see a lot of companies. I usually talk to them after like 6 to 12 months in the Japan market, and they said like we did all these things, it didn't work, we have all these issues. And I was like, duh, I could have told you that like from day one. So it's kind of funny like how I've noticed that a lot of companies, just having someone like yourself and just, even just a 5 to 10 hour, even a short project could save them a lot of time and money. So it makes me kind of laugh sometimes. Like, it's like you guys are so sensitive on price, but I think you should be more sensitive on time because you're actually wasting more money because you're not valuing your time and
Yeah.
HR costs to make a lot of mistakes with trial and error.
Yes, exactly. That's actually what I mean, right? When I talk about cultural intelligence in the GTM. So, to start off, sharing quick observation from my side. The biggest misunderstanding that founders have when they are entering Japan
Hmm.
market is that Japan is a difficult market. It's not difficult, actually. It's
Actually,
just
it's not.
high context market. And most founders approach it with the low context market assumptions. Here's what I mean. So for example, in US, you can launch SaaS business with a bold value proposition, aggressive positioning, and product-led growth. You optimize for speed and individual decision making, right? That's the law context. The message is explicit, the bias psychology is transactional. Japan is actually the opposite. It's high context. Trust is earned through a relationship, not features. Decisions are consensus driven, not individual. Messaging needs to be humble and incremental, not bold and disruptive. And the sales cycles, they're actually 2 or 3 times longer because you're not just selling a product, you are being evaluated as a long term partner. So when founders come to me and say, we translated our website and it didn't work, the problem is actually right there. Translation doesn't mean transformation, and you cannot just swap English for Japanese and expect adoption. So what's really missing here is actually cultural intelligence. It's understanding of the trust signals, society trends, buyer psychology patterns, and narrative structure that makes a product story resonate in high context market like Japan. So AI accelerates output in this case. Culture determines adoption, and most teams copy their home market GTM or apply home market buyer psychology to Japan, and they burn, as you mentioned, they burn money. They burn $500,000, $1 million and 12, 18 months learning this the hard way.
Yeah, exactly. It's sometimes it's funny. I think it is actually kind of funny because it's so preventable. Like if you just lowered your ego a little bit and talk to someone like yourself or myself, like who's done it many times, and it's so I kind of like to say Japan isn't difficult. It just takes time and effort, but it's
Right.
actually not that difficult. It just takes a little bit longer. And I think you really nailed on some really solid points that translation isn't localization.
Right.
And I guess kind of a follow-up question is, what are some additional trust factors you think that is very important for the Japan market to get a Japanese company to believe that maybe this foreign company can be a long-term partner?
Tyson, thanks so much for an amazing question. If we talk about trust signals, then SaaS founders or actually any startup founders need to watch out when they are scaling to Japan market. It's all about showing to the Japanese audience that the product is ready for Japan. The team is ready to embrace Japan cultural reality and Japan society needs. I would say partnership is very important. Finding worthy partner who can be not only reseller of your products, but literally your cultural translator, and also listening to users as much as possible to
Hmm.
adopt your product so it could really work for Japan market. That's super critical. If we look at trust signals and patterns actually that I'm seeing in my work, if we speak about Series A, D startups and even big enterprises who are coming from global markets to Japan or even like from Japan to global, actually see three big major patterns that are very much impacting the successful or not successful GTM strategy. So, pattern number one, as I mentioned earlier, the great translation fallacy. It happens when global startup is scaling to Japan. So companies think localization means translation, and it's not. Example, US SaaS teams enter Japan with messaging something like save 10 hours a week messaging, direct, individual centric. But Japanese buyers value team continuity, low risk, and reliable support. So you asked me earlier about trust signals, right? So things like showing to Japanese consumers safety and harmony, that's very much matters. And in the case that I mentioned earlier, US companies actually like sell speed. However, Japan buys stability. That's the narrative architecture mismatch, not a copy tweak, right? Number two, the silent excellence trap. And this happens when we talk about Japanese companies scaling global. So, for example, in many cases, Japanese companies often have world class tech, but no global positioning. And in Japan, referrals and omotenashi can build $50 million business. Globally, silence means invisibility. So, high context craftsmanship doesn't translate with a clear, explicit story. What problem do you solve? Why are you different? Why should anybody care? I see these patterns happen over and over again when actually Japanese startups are trying to really copy their home market GTM with this referrals and omotenashi and not build a proper storytelling for their product or for founders themselves. And number three, the AI acceleration paradox. This is actually something that no one talks about seriously. So companies are using AI to accelerate their GTM, but they are accelerating in the wrong direction. I see teams using AI to generate 10x more content, 10x faster marketing campaigns, 10x more variations, but actually the underlying cultural logic is wrong. So you are burning budget actually at 10x speed. So for example, founders are running LinkedIn ads in the line market here. They are building self-service funnels for product-led growth and SaaS businesses in the relationship first culture. And in this case, AI doesn't fix that strategic misalignment, it actually amplifies it. And that's why I actually created my augmented human method, all about culture tools and mindset, where we hope to solve those problems, where AI accelerates output, but culture determines adoption. And in the end of the day, you need both. And most companies that I've seen are only solving for one.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's so important. I mean, if you have this, I guess the AI could be like the Ferrari. You want to make sure at
Yes,
least you're driving in the right direction.
yes.
Gotcha. Very cool. No, I think you bring up some very good points. And it is also really interesting to hear the reverse of what Japanese companies struggle when they go abroad. And so I guess my next question would be, you're seeing a lot of the trends, you're working with corporations, but could you maybe give us a preview of 2026?
Tyson, thanks so much for a beautiful question. Sharing a little bit like sneak preview. I'm right now working on Japan Creative Intelligence Report. It's for community, for founders who are scaling into Japan, for Japanese founders scaling global, just really my observations on what's going on in the world, technology, AI, and creativity. And I personally think that there are three major trends founders need to watch very carefully in 2026, especially if you are in SaaS, AI, deep tech, or creative tech. Trend number one, augmented human shift in the workforce. So what we see is that Japan's working age population has shrunk 16% since 1995 and will drop another 31% by 2060. And this is not just a demographic stats, it's a forcing fundamental shift in how work gets done. And I really think that the future is not about AI replacing humans, it's about AI augmenting humans. And companies that are adopting AI copilots and predictive tools to handle routine tasks so workers can focus on high value strategy and creative roles, those companies will win in future. And for SaaS founders, this means that your product needs to be positioned not as automation tool, but as an augmentation tool. Japanese buyers want to see how you empower their team, not replacing their people. And that should be a really cool nugget on how you build your brand narrative and the whole product story
And
positioning.
why does augmenting or is augmenting resonate more than automation or replacing for the
Right.
Japanese market?
It's super simple. When I work with big enterprises or even small and medium businesses, there is a common fear around AI. And people are scared that AI is taking our jobs eventually and that people will lose their jobs. So in the end of the day, I really think, and there are multiple researches on internet that prove that it's not AI who will take your job. The person who can use AI tools with the cultural intelligence and strategically, those people will take your job because it's basically think about AI as a tractor or electricity. It's industrial and cultural shift that's happening nowadays. That's how society changes. If we speak about the startups, it's all about like how we are combating this fear for audience. That's point number one. And then point number two across, it's not only fear, it's also about ethical AI, about governance. For example, creative artists and creative people can leverage AI tools and still be the owners of their work.
And that makes perfect. I love your analogy of the farmer maybe who uses like an ox versus the farmer who uses a tractor and the
Yeah.
amount of yield the farmer with the tractor can get over.
Yes, exactly. And that's the reason why we are saying that it's augmented humans. So thinking about AI as companion, because if we speak about automation, before we automate anything, we need to figure out whether this is the project or whether this is a task where AI is actually needed. Maybe this is something where we don't need AI. If we're talking about specific customer support job, where the customer representative is handling the customer who just didn't get your bedding dressed in time. That's not 100% where AI can be plugged into the process. Coming back to trends, trend number two that I see is that cultural localization actually becomes then non-negotiable for SaaS businesses. For example, some time ago, there were SaaS businesses who used to succeed in Japan just with language translation, but that's not the case anymore. And buyers now cultural localization interfaces that match Japanese workflows, compliance features for local data privacy laws, integrations with tools like Line and Chatwork. And the winners in 2026, in my view, will be platforms and businesses that embed cultural intelligence into product itself. Think about AI personalization that adapts to Japanese business etiquettes, templates that follow Ringi approval processes, and onboarding that emphasizes incremental progress over the
Mhm.
bold claims. So I think that if your SaaS feels foreign, in Japan, you will eventually lose to the local competitor, and even if your product is actually technically better.
Uh,
And the last trend, but not least, trend number three, Gen AI hubs and the rise of intelligence stacks. For example, right now, Japanese government is very aggressively funding Gen AI startups through programs like Gen AI Open Innovation Japan 2025, SoftBank Station AI, and NEC Co-Creation Labs. That's a massive opportunity for foreign companies coming to Japan to see this level of government support. For founders, it means two things. First, funding is available if you are building AI solutions for Japan labor challenges, and if you are building AI solutions that can help solve specific problems happening in Japan society. And second, competition is heating up fast. If you're planning to enter Japan, 2026 is the year to move before the window closes. And why this matters for your GTM? All these three trends point to the same thing. Japan is pivoting from technology adoption to technology plus cultural intelligence. And the companies that win will be the ones who understand that AI accelerates output, but culture determines adoption. And that's not changing in 2026. It's accelerating. And I hope that if you guys are seriously thinking in Japan, you could collaborate with Tyson and figure out how your market entry in Japan could be possible and take advantage of those funding opportunities and government opportunities that are available here. Yeah.
Thank you for updating us on kind of the trends you're seeing. And regarding the second point, regarding really how cultural intelligence is what really distinguishes companies. Now, when I see a company with a website that's been translated into Japanese, like I immediately assume they use ChatGPT or they used AI. So before, when it was translated, you'd assume a person kind of did it, but now you assume that, let's say it's AI doing it. So like it actually turns me off more now than before. Like before, I was like, oh, at least they hired somebody to, the person might have not been competent enough to do a localization, but hey, they at least got a translator. Now it's like, wow, this company, like, they're just gonna put it to AI. Like, if they're gonna translate the website to AI, like, what are they gonna do with our work? Which is much more serious. If you do something cheap and like, go cheap on it, it's hard to get trust in a company who does that. More so now. So I guess what I'm saying is what you're saying kind of like matches like my personal like impressions recently as well.
Yeah, Tyson, I guess it's everybody seeing the same things here, right? And this is something that I keep repeating over and over again. We need cultural intelligence here, specifically for GTM. And that's what I built my business around to help founders to scale into new market. It's when we combine human intelligence with AI intelligence to have the output, and this is what I'm teaching people, showing the AI marketing workflows.
Yeah, so let's kind of I want to dive into that now. So let's dive into some of the AI workflows that you do employ or help others with.
Absolutely, Tyson. Happy to share something that I use in my work and something that I use when I'm working with my clients. Let me show you a very quick example on what I mean by AI being a narrative amplifier, not a replacement, and what I mean by cultural intelligence in AI and its combination in order to have amazing output. We see that most teams copy their home market GTM and apply home market bias psychology to high context market like Japan, burning more than $500,000 and then 12, 18 months. So here is the thing, and I keep repeating this over and over again. AI accelerates output, culture determines adoption. Let me give you guys a little bit context. So here is what typically happens. Global SaaS company comes to me and says, we translated our website to Japanese, ran ads, but nothing is working. And I look at their brand narrative and it's exact same value proposition they use in US, just in Japanese. The problem isn't their AI tools, right, that they use to translate the English messaging into the Japanese. No, it's actually that we shouldn't just focus on features here. We should focus on what works for Japan market here, fundamental use cases, biopsychology, society trends, so far and so on. And you can have actually the best AI in the world plugged in into your workflow processes. You can have amazing subscriptions with Claude, ChatGPT, whatever. But if you're feeding that AI with the wrong cultural context, you're just automating your failure at 10x speed.
Quick note for our podcast listeners, this next section gets pretty visual. We're walking through live demos of AI tools, chat interfaces, mood boards, and animation workflows that are really hard to follow without seeing the screen. If you want the full experience, head over to the YouTube version of this episode. Links in the show notes. All right, let's dive in.
So let me show you a quick example what I actually mean. What I'm gonna do, I am gonna share my screen. So let's take SaaS productivity tool Notion. And we see clearly here the US value proposition, one workplace, zero busy work. That's what we see on US website. If we go to Japanese version, by the way, guys, Notion is one of my favorite tools that I use every day as a creator and business owner. This is just the example that I wanted to show you in terms of AI amplification and localization. So here is what we have in Japanese. Hitotsu no workspace. It's basically exactly the same message that they have on US website. What I would like to show you here is that there is a way to use AI marketing workflows for any SaaS business. What I typically do, first of all, I use a Perplexity tool to gather market intelligence, and this is exactly the prompt that you guys can use, and I'm literally sharing it here so you could screenshot it, and later leverage for your work. What I would like to figure out here, first of all, I would like to figure out what are the biopsychology patterns, what motivates decision makers for SaaS productivity tool solutions in Japan, to really understand the underlying psychological triggers. I would ask Perplexity as well, how do Japanese teams describe their workflow challenges, to understand their sentiment and also understand like what values they prioritize. I would also want to understand the cultural friction. We were talking before about trust signals, right? So this is something that I would ask Perplexity, what trust signals are needed to be watched when marketing SaaS productivity tool in Japan market. We have maybe 10 seconds, even less, to have the answer from Perplexity. And this is marketing intelligence that is trustworthy because it has linkage to sources. We talk about partnerships, right? Like local presence and commitment, Japan language website, local entity in Japan, local support, etc. This is something that I asked Perplexity really quick to gather marketing intelligence. And what I do next, my goal here is to take this marketing intelligence component and plug into the workflow where I'm actually adapting the message. What I do next, I work on adapting brand messaging to Japanese market via cultural intelligence layer. What I do, I literally copy paste this prompt into Claude, take the messaging that we have from the US website, copy paste it here so you could see, and I'm literally saying help me adapt US messaging, not translate, adapt. I'm working on cultural adaptation, and provide output in Japanese with English direct translation. So I'm writing this guy so you could see, or the founder who is not speaking Japanese could see what the Japanese messaging looks like and what's the English translation underneath the brackets, applying the most relevant to of Japan principles, ma, shibui, kokoro. Why I'm writing this? Because basically the methodology that I build, it also has the layer of Japan design principles. This is something that actually I would say that any company uses here, like space, depth, intention, kaizen. This is cultural philosophical principles or Japan design thinking principles. Analyzing the consumer patterns below. And for consumer patterns specifically, I copy paste the intelligence that Perplexity gave us. So I don't really summarize it. I just paste it here and Claude has it. And boom, here we go. So right now, Claude is thinking very deeply in terms of analysis of the US copy, seeing how we can adapt it to Japan with two cultural fundamental things. One is the Japanese cultural design thinking principles, and second one, the consumer patterns that we saw in Perplexity. Let me just read it loud here. So the original zero busy work is too aggressive and dismissive. Team of 7 feels like 70, overpromises and may trigger skepticism about realistic productivity gains. The AI agent's framing may feel futuristic rather than reliable. This is something that Claude recommends us securely organize your team's knowledge, reliably put it to work. So basically, it gives us the key message here. It gives us a supporting copy. It shows us how this messaging is applied respecting these principles here, why we talk about depth, why we talk about intention sincerely, and gives us the adaptation. We can also ask Claude here something like, give me 5 variations of US messaging adaptation for Japan with considering same principles. And if you want to kind of brainstorm together with Claude on messaging examples, that's basically another way to do it. It gives us an option where it focuses on harmony and reliability focus. For example, this one here, organize information, connect your team in one workspace.
I really like that one in Japanese.
Yeah, so processability emphasis, long-term partnership, risk reduction and precision, collectively efficient focus. Imagine you're a marketer here in Japan with lean team, or like somebody who doesn't understand Japanese, you can give it to your Japanese team member and actually ask, Tsujimasu ka? Like, What does it work? What do you feel? What do you prefer? And then when you have those variations, you will then ask Claude to give you two copies out of those variations for potential A/B test in your ad or in your campaign, for some kind of like quick marketing campaign, to see what kind of messaging resonates better with Japan audience and what kind of messaging gets more inbound traffic. You would just copy paste literally this prompt and you will literally say something. What are the best two options to test and why? So you have the framework originally with the cultural layer, then you have variations, and then you ask Claude for intelligence, which one they prefer. So they gave variation for risk reduction and precision, eliminate information gaps, protect your team's time. So why we have this messaging here is because one of the fear of our target audience is that knowledge will be lost. And when we talk to Perplexity, we can ask about what are the key fears that the audience is having. And it gives us the reason why this messaging is cool. And the second one, variation number one, harmony and connectivity. Organize information, connect your team in one workplace. 情報を整え、チームをつなぐ一つのワークスペースで。So basically, and it even gives you idea how you can A/B test it, like variation for enterprise IT decision makers, variation one for team leads and department managers. Tyson, which one of those you like yourself? Variation one?
One was, and variation one, like the strongest trust signals.
Yes.
I think that one, I see those, if you go a little bit more up. Sorry.
Yeah, you like this one, right?
Yes.
What I just showed you was like one of the examples, right? And just to repeat myself quick, like Ma Kokoro Shibui, those are like three of like multiple, I guess there are like 7 design principles that you kind of use it as a cultural layer when you work with messaging and architecture. And this is an example of the workflow where I talk about AI as the brand narrative amplifier. Yeah, I could show you a little bit more here.
One more point about variation one was that it did really well and to kind of highlight what you mentioned as cultural intelligence element being very important. But the first part was Anna's prompt did a really, really good job because an American point would be more like it saves time, 25% reduction in time. But in this case, it's more like the team as one unit. So the team as one unit in some cases may resonate more than like the hard results. But I thought that was kind of, so I thought your prompt did a really good job.
Exactly. So when we originally talked to Perplexity here, we actually see what are the patterns here for society when they deal with the productivity tools. And then when the original prompt that we see, we could also ask here, like, what are the fears or what are the challenges that people have when they use productivity tools, and it gives us lots of information that we can then feed into Claude or ChatGPT as your cultural intelligence component to kind of reference this information. I would be also happy to share one more thing with you. So this is actually where AI workflow magic happens, and I would say that Claude is one of the most daily used tools in my daily life right now. And by the way, I just wanted to say that Claude Pro Max and enterprise users get access to Claude skills, and those Claude skills are actually basically reusable instructions to teach Claude your exact workflow, tone, and standards, so you don't repeat yourself in every chat. And instead of rewriting long prompts for things like brand voice emails or GTM messaging, you just can create a custom skill, like for example, culture value prop transformer, upload the new value proposition into the skill. So literally the stuff which was just there, you could kind of summarize it in the document, upload it there. And once you create a material, Claude pulls that from basically this document into everything that you do later automatically. And the real hack is that skill travel with you. You can use those across multiple chats and projects, and that's how you get 10x speed actually, by keeping consistency and cultural nuance. And it's not a magic, that's the systems, and that's the systems that I teach.
Do they
Okay,
have that in the pro plan as well or only enterprise?
Claude Skills is available in Pro, Max, and Enterprise. So basically, it's like how you can train Claude on your specific brand voice so you don't start every single chat when you are talking to the system. Okay, guys, are you ready for something a little bit more exciting? Visual.
Go for it.
Tyson, are we ready?
Yes.
Right. So I'd like to show you one more demo here, and this time is about visuals. Most founders actually think that localization is just translating the copy, right? It's just translating the brand narrative. But the visual language has to shift too as well when we are producing social posts, LinkedIn posts, any commercials. So the ads that work in US or Europe won't land in Japan. And let me show you actually how I could build a culturally aligned mini clip for a brand like Notion just a few minutes. And why I take Notion? Because we just started from this company. I'll just use it as an example continuously. And let's say I'm planning the visual direction for the same productivity tool Notion in Japan. And I'd like to create visual concepts and see how we can achieve the local vibes here while maintaining the global brand voice. Gonna share my screen here again and show you something quick. There are multiple tools on market here for the video creation and image creation. For this specific use case, an example, I'll just guys show you very quickly the Google Mixboard. And I'll walk you through the details. Google Mixboard is amazing creativity photo boost for you. It's really great for visualizing your concept, creating basically your ideas before you hand it to the agency, creating visuals for your landing pages on websites. And I'll show you something very quickly how you can come up to something cool using Mixboard. So first, step number one, you basically get the brand inspiration. You gather all images that are relevant to the social mini clip that you're trying to create. So these specifically images, I pick it from the Global Notion website. This one is from one of their local Japan video, and it's very much Japanese. This is just like the Daruma inspiration. This is like how I created a sketch, Tokyo Tower, and those are quick visuals to set your creative direction. Step number two, you ask Mixboard for variations. Why I picked up the Google Mixboard here for concepting, imaging Google Nana Banana married Miro, and I really love this tool because you can really do lots of things. So if we have original image like that, that's very easy to export it here. And I'll just show you real time. This is the image that I got when I asked Google Mixboard to turn this into real photo with two Japanese men and one Japanese woman. Let me show you how I got this image. Just really quick so you could see it in action. I basically take this image as a reference and type here something like make characters in this image stand. Don't change characters' faces or preserve characters' faces. Here we go. Again, we have less than 1 minute, and language learning model generates the image. So like you could see, it's a little bit different from the one that I created before, but actually the same idea. The guys are standing here, right? So basically what we are doing with this step number two, we are creating variations to have more scenes. So the next step, I ask Mixboard to make changes. For example, in the end of the day, in my social media mini clip, I will use one of the image from here. And then, for example, I like this one because it really gives me some Japanese vibes, like in US, Notion would probably rarely use this cat. And since our mini clip, we would like to be consistent with global brand voice, some black and white, I'd like to turn this cat into black and white. So I will reference this image And I would ask in the prompt, like, turn this image into black and white sketch. So this is the result I got. And also, like, I wanted to experiment and see if I could kind of marry this cat with this
Yeah.
background. I created this image with this prompt, turn this into yellow color cat in Japanese street, minimalist photo, ultra realistic close up. What I will do, I'll probably use this image when guys are sitting at the computer, and I would use this image. And if I use shift, you could see in the prompt there are two reference images, and I would be working with these images. And my goal is reimagining my scene. So I would plug in these two images and I would run this prompt, like create a scene where cat sits close to the chair. Don't change the characters' faces. Again, this is very critical because we're working with Google Nano Banana model, and we want to keep characters consistency. So I will have this type of output, and then you see this is the original image with the cat here, and what's interesting, it's kind of a little bit, you will see the cat's body, right? So what happens next? My goal is to generate reel or 15 seconds clip that I can plug in with, for example, voiceover from 11 Labs or even some sounds. I'll then go to Flow, and this is actually something that I created before. Google Flow is an amazing tool if you want to build scene after scene. So imagine in the Google Mix board or Midjourney or any literally image generation tool, you generate images and then your goal is to animate them, to make them alive. So I will have here text to video or frames to video if you want to build a consistent story. And then I will upload the image here and then say something like animate the scene, make cat walk, and people type computers and not hats, and see what I got in result.
Pretty
So
good. Yeah. Really good.
this is AI creativity example, and like with this type of workflow, you can be inspired, build up every scene for let's say like 15, 30 seconds and produce mini clip that you can use for your socials. And again, it will keep consistent brand voice. However, it will have this local nuances, something that resonates with Japan market very well, where customers would be more used to what they see, and that's actually how you generate brand awareness campaign. And this is literally just an example. This is what I mean, where we have in the end of the day AI native marketing workflow. You're not replacing creativity, you're not replacing yourself, you're amplifying it. And AI lets a lean team move 10x faster without hiring a big agency, but only if you know what actually resonates customer. That's why we always have humans in the loop. And here is a simple principle I want you to really walk away with. Modern AI workflows are reusable systems, not one-off prompts. Cloud for concepting, Mixboard for mood boards, Flow for motion and animation. Those are not just like cool features. They are building blocks of your GTM engine, and that's exactly what my augmented human method does. Culture determines adoption, AI accelerates output, and together they help teams build real internal capability, not dependency. And you can learn actually any AI tool right now on YouTube. However, you can't learn the cultural intelligence layer that actually makes things work in your target market. And that's the part we bring. Strategy first, AI is the unlock.
Very cool. And I guess kind of like the last thing we can cover in today's episode is maybe I think you have your 5 questions, and we can finish off with your 5 questions to diagnose if your GTM will fail before you launch.
Before we wrap up here, I want to share a framework I use in my work called Global GTM Readiness Framework. It actually has 5 questions that reveal problems before you burn any budget. First, cultural fit. Does your narrative actually make sense in the high context market? Second, positioning. Can someone understand what you offer, what makes you different, and why they should buy from you in 10 seconds? Third, Brand readiness. Does your brand meet local expectations and feel local instantly? Fourth, GTM architecture. Do you have a repeatable system for entering new market? And five, team and mindset. Can your team adapt and iterate at global speed? So when I run diagnostic with founders and do market readiness assessment, we usually find those cultural gaps and big gaps in GTM strategy in 2 days, often saving six figures in misaligned GTM. And you don't need to answer all of those questions, but you do need to know where your risks are so you can fix them proactively, not reactively.
Yeah, and I just think rather than sending someone to Japan, them spending 6 to 12 months, and then they still wouldn't have as much knowledge as just working with Anna. And also, like with the team from headquarters talk with Anna, they'll also kind of explain like things that they need to succeed. So if they actually were to bring somebody over, they don't have to waste all this time going back and forth unnecessarily with headquarters. And there's just so much friction and waste by just trying to trial and error, or I guess do the American way of like, force your way in. Because I would say it's getting to the point where companies do this. It's like these companies are dumb. Like in 2026, like it's really dumb if you keep just learning by trial and error. Like it's so this is kind of my way of promoting you, but like for my end too, like it's embarrassing seeing it. It's just so obvious now.
Guys, and it looks everything what we just discussed was so much resonating with your work as well. Closing remark from me. If anything we talked about today, any questions about your GTM strategy, your global narrative, or how AI fits into your market GTM, please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to share perspectives and point you into the right direction. I run my Substack where I do GTM teardowns of companies like Notion, Monday.com, Canva. There are lots of lessons for founders, and I'm sure with everything that we are doing in Japan, Tyson helping founders as well. We are here, guys, to support you as much as we can and help your Japan story a success.
And we'll put a link in this for the Substack. And also, we'll probably want to put in the prompts as well in the
Yep.
show notes, and people can check it out. And also link to Anna on LinkedIn. This has been a really good episode, and thank you for preparing so much and sharing all this wonderful knowledge.
Thank you, Tyson, for having me. See you.